Welcome, everybody, to Broadcast Team Alpha, where we bring you cutting edge conversation while exploring the quantum possibilities. And all you have to do is look at the screen tonight, and you know we are so going to do it again. I am so excited for, excuse me, I'm having feedback, guys. I'm so excited for our guests. Sorry, guys. All right. Forgive me. I'm so sorry, guys. Anyway, Augie is going to tell you about all of our beautiful thought leaders that are here. He's going to introduce them. But before we get started, as always, I just want to thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for your super chats. Thank you for joining us in our other venues. We partner with the Conscious Awakening Network. So right now we're streaming over there, and they have all kinds of amazing and hosts and everything that you would really want to see. So I highly invite you to go over there and check it out and check us out. And Augie is also over there on Sunday night with the Paranormal Show. And I'd like to thank you for all of you who join us on Sunday afternoon for the Mastermind Connection. It is a spiritual think tank. A bunch of really amazing beings come together. We visualize the way that we want to see the changes in ourselves, in our family, if they're ill, in our friends, our animals, and then more importantly, the world. We mastermind, we visualize all of the changes that are coming. And with this acceleration that's happening, there's a lot of things that we can envision to help choose the timeline that will keep us in the best feeling energy. So if you'd like to join us, send an email to themastermindconnection@gmail.com. Augie will send you the link. It's Sunday at 2 p.m. You can come hang out with us. And if you like us, you can come see us every week. So without any further ado, Augie, please tell us about our beautiful panel of amazing women. And you're muted. You're muted. There you go.
No, that helps, doesn't it?
The spirits are
Okay, gosh, that's the brilliance that's coming through here for me. Anyway, yeah, we're going to delve into the spiritual world tonight a little bit because we are never alone. There are spiritual entities, there are spirits, there are angels, there are messengers, there are higher vibratory entities, and from time to time, some of them like to communicate with us, and they do in very different ways. Some of them good and some of them not so good. And we're going to hear about that. And maybe also a little bit about what to do about it. So we have put together a panel of the most experienced people that we can think of. And we have with us Jenny Cousins, Laura Eisenhower, and Kim O'Neill. And Geraldine Orozco is still trying to get on the panel here. I just don't see her yet, but hopefully she can make it in. And we have Laura Lee Potvin and Lily Rodriguez. So welcome to the show. And Nori, you started out.
All right, welcome, ladies. So we're going to go around again in alphabetical order so that we don't have favorites, and maybe just tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you do. And Jenny?
Well, I'm an international known television psychic clairvoyant medium. I hosted and produced a live talk show weekly at Shot Television Studios for over 5 years. I do past life Akashic record readings. I'm an animal communicator, meditation teacher, life coach, esoteric teacher, I have a column in SF Yoga magazine called Just Ask Jenny G. And for those of you who would like to book a reading with me, you can go to soulworkwithjenny.com. I'm all over social media. You will easily find me. So I basically read into your level of consciousness to see where you're at and expand it from that point on with my insights and answer any and all of your questions and also give you steps how to resolve issues and blocks. And I'm so grateful to be back on here and to meet everybody and to be a part of this. Thank you, everybody.
Aw, it's so good to have you, Jen. Laura Eisenhower, good to see you, Laura.
Great to see you. Thanks for having me. It's wonderful to meet all of you and be on this panel together. Well, I am a researcher, I am an author, and I am an astrologer. So I've done readings, gosh, I would say I started doing readings about 20, 30 years ago, but I started to do it more on a professional level, I guess you could say, about 10, 15 years ago. And yeah, I've been a speaker, international speaker for about a decade or so. And I just have had a very interesting journey, and I have just taken a lot of, oh, information in from my higher self and observed a lot of interesting things along the way. And yeah, when I do astrology, I kind of go into a different zone because I went to a clairvoyant institute for a while, and I was really working on, people's energy and auras and attachments and tears and just things going on in the chakras. But now I mostly, do astrology. And yeah, I just put out a book called Awakening the Truth Frequency about living your authentic self and not giving your power away and remembering, who we really are and what happened in our galactic history and what's really been going on, for you to discern and take what resonates. And yeah, just enjoy still working with clients, and I look forward to see where this discussion goes tonight.
Me too, Laura. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Kim O'Neill. Kim.
I am also so honored to be back here again. So thank you. I even said to Nori, are you sure? And she said yes. And I'm very grateful because as I was thinking about this conversation, I'm like, oh, I have a lot to share. So I'm very grateful to be here. What do I do? So I'm an authentic confidence coach. I do one-on-one coaching sessions as well as custom meditation sessions for clients, helping them reclaim their authentic self, get back into that space of knowing who they are, feeling good and whole in who they are. You're always whole, but it's the feeling aspect of it that I really help them align with. And there's tends to be a lot of spiritual components in a lot of the work that I do with my clients. So I work with the people who can identify for themselves that, I've got this conventional side of me and this unconventional side of me. And I help them find inner peace with that and bridge that gap and all of that. So I'll leave it there, and I'm excited for today's
Love it.
conversation as well.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Laura Lee.
Thank you so much
Putnam.
for
Good to
having.
see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited to be amongst this very esteemed panel. So thank you for asking me. I am a Canadian psychic medium. I'm a spiritual teacher and mentor. I read Akashic records. I am a crystal Reiki energy healer. I teach and mentor. I'm a registered nurse, budding animal communicator. I'm very well versed in near death experiences, having had one myself as a toddler. And being a nurse, as well as personally, I've studied them professionally and personally for over 40 years. I'm very well versed in the paranormal, not by choice. As Augie and Nori will well know, they've known them for quite a few years, as I'm sure most of us have here. We shared our story on Paranormal Survivor on season 4, episode 9 on the Travel Channel. I am also a host of a longstanding show called The Angel Rock on Monday nights on UFO Paranormal Radio, sometimes called United Public Radio. We like to call it UPRN. That's 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern. And then Thursday nights, I started a second show with a very good friend of mine, who's very gifted Angel Channel near death experiencer and medium David Hansel, and it starts at 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern again. It's called The Thing at the Foot of the Bed. I think I remembered everything. But thank you for having me.
Awesome. Absolutely. Welcome. And last but not least, my friend and cohort in the love sessions, Lily Rodriguez. Welcome, Lil.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. As Nori said, I am co-host of a little thing we call the Love Sessions, having some fun with that. Other than that, I'm sort of a semi-retired, as much as we can retire from this path. But I am a semi-retired practical and magical coach because I am fascinated by the balance of those two things. And I love working with people and helping them find the balance that works for them with these two things that can often cause a lot of friction in people's lives trying to work with those two. I am an intuitive advisor, and with tonight's topic, about a decade or so ago, I went down a rabbit hole and took some certification courses in angel card reading and intuitive work and realm reading, and I have a wonderful, kind of got there reluctantly, but I have a very wonderful, close relationship with my personal guardian angel, that I hope I'll be sharing a little story with you guys later about him. He is quite funny.
Oh, that would be wonderful, Lil. That's wonderful. Thank you. So, I've been thinking about now, first, I want to say that I'm setting the intention that there will be no interference. There will be no electronic interference, no solar flares, no spooky interference, that our show is just going to flow. And wherever the conversation goes is going to be perfect. I just know that. But I've really been thinking about this and thinking about spirits, right? And everybody says that spirits are everywhere. So I was laying in my bed thinking about this, and I was like, so invisibly, what does it look like? If there are spirits everywhere here, does it look like a crowded house party that I can't see? Where are they? How do they come to us? So anybody that feels like jumping in on this first question, you're so welcome.
I'll jump in there. Right. I think what happens is if we break it right down and we go to a science background, even everything is energy. And one of the laws of the universe is energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It can be transferred from one place to another. And that includes us as well as being energy, being energy. So I believe we are everlasting, eternal, as I'm sure many on this panel will believe as well. And for some reasons, and there's a variety of reasons that we find out when we are able to communicate with the other side, and some people use devices like ghost boxes or things like that. Some people are intuitive as mediums, such as myself and many on the panel here. Some spirit chooses to hang around here. So, and we have many which are called the clairs, right? Clairvoyance, when we seeing, clairaudience, hearing. I know everybody in the panel knows this, but for listening. So we may not see them, but I think even if people aren't tuned into their intuitive abilities, and I believe we all have them, we can feel it. We know when we walk into a room and somebody's had an argument and we may not have heard it or seen it. Many of us can feel that something doesn't feel right with that. It's the same thing, I think, with spirits. And it's not just spirits. There are many, many different entities, good, not so good maybe, that can come here from different dimensions. I mean, I will stop there, but there could be a whole room. And one other thing I want to add, spirits just don't come out in the dark. It's 5 o'clock somewhere around the world always, right? A lot of people feel very safe in the daytime. Not that we have to worry, but spirit is wherever. There is no time on the other side.
Yeah.
Interesting. I love that. I love that.
Yeah. I mean, like I mean, we can get signs in any way, like any modality. Like I see spirits and get messages 24/7. And I mean, I literally can see somebody walking in front of me, if it's a human or being, or if it's an animal and so on. Just to give you just one little example, I was on the phone with a friend of mine one time, and all of a sudden a man's shoes just appeared on the floor right in front of me, and I felt this presence. And I literally like freaked right out. This was like many years ago. And then I found out that in the building there was like a man living in my unit, in my apartment where I was at the time. So they can show physical signs at any given time, like from the other world. If it's like an object, if it's a feather, or whatever it is. Like there's so many. Like I could give you like 100 examples, like I'm sure, we all can from whatever we've seen and such like that. So you get physical touches.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I had a friend that when she was opening to spirit, they would really annoy her. She would be meditating and they'd touch her hair and, pull on her shirt. And it was very interesting for me to observe that because I kind of, closed off to spirit when I was 16 because I went down a rabbit hole and kind of couldn't get back after astral traveling. So, but now, I'm so much more open to it, and I know that I have a whole cadre of people that love me on the other side. But are they on the other side or are they really right here? Do we have to call them in or do the angels bring them in or what do you guys think? How do we make that connection?
I don't think we ever lose the connection. And I
No.
know in my practice, I let people know because we tend to think with the way, whether it's, and I'm not knocking religion in any way, but religious dogma and belief systems and what we've been told, we tend to believe that heaven is way up here. And you will get some people that will say, well, no, you can never really connect with the true source of your loved one or your relative or what have you. I don't agree with that. I think, if you want to call it a doorway between worlds, like they are next to you. And every time, say you're having a family gathering, I always tell them every time you think of them, they can be there. They're not limited by a physical, heavy, dense body like what we have here, nor are they limited by space and time. They can be in many places at the same time and in an instant. And if you will, I think they can still have one foot, if you will, in the room next to us. If you want just a little arm, not even an arm's length across, but they can be here. And I love what Jenny said too. Pets as well. I've gotten pictures talking to people, actual pictures of somebody's pet that is, what we call it going to the Rainbow Bridge, right? But there
Mhm.
they are in their favorite spot where they always stayed, staying with their owner. So I
Oh,
think a variety of ways you can get your loved ones to come through, but I think grief is a normal space to be in as well as when we lose someone we love. I think it lowers our vibration or energy. And we have loved ones that, if you want to call it, cross the veil. So sometimes they need that bridge. That's why you can go to a
Yeah.
medium, somebody that can connect and sort of translate, if you will, be the telephone line. But they do
mhm,
leave signs. I agree. I love what Jenny said.
Oh
mhm.
yeah, I get them every day. Like I like all the time. Like
Mhm.
it's so many times a day that I just, I live with it. You get used to it.
Do you
They
ever
have
tell
heart.
them that
Uh,
you're closed? Like I'm closed between the hours of, you know,
No,
Yes.
like I will literally wake up anytime in the middle of the night. And as soon as I wake up, I'm getting downloaded messages nonstop. So it's like, okay, can I just go to the bathroom? Like, like
by
seriously,
myself.
And we
you
can
know,
set boundaries, right?
yeah,
Doesn't mean
but
they're always going to listen, but
yeah, it
listen.
depends, right? Like it depends what the message is. Like if it's a message like that I feel I should know or I feel I should share, I'll stay with it. But if it like for instance, I got a message from I had a client over and his girlfriend she was killed and um the day went on or whatever. And then I started to get bombarded messages from her, and I'm like, I'm not gonna text him at 2 o'clock in the morning. Like, are you like, but she wouldn't leave me alone. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna send the message. And I'm like, I hope he's not awake because I couldn't get back to sleep until once I sent him the message and I apologized. Here's your message. I went to sleep right away. I managed to go to sleep because I released that
mm,
message.
yeah.
So it just really depends what's going on and stuff like that. Because I go into deep trances and then I get shown, uh, different things for myself, what's coming up for my future, and I'm showing it, and then it happens. So it
Wow.
just depends. It just really depends.
Yeah. Yeah. What
Yeah.
so
I
go ahead, Augie. I'm
yeah.
sorry.
I I want to hear from Laura. What where do you think the home of spirits are? Is it up there? Is it in here? or if we want to contact someone, do they have to come from somewhere else into our presence so we could communicate? What do you think?
Me?
Yeah.
I thought another Laura here. Oh yeah. Well, I think it's both. I mean, our state of mind has so much to do with the kind of life that we live. People can, feel like they're living a heavenly, wonderful experience, and sometimes people, say they're feeling like they're going through hell. Um, but then there's that whole good versus evil and all that stuff. I mean, there's so much to it, but I really truly feel that with having Pluto conjunct my sun, the amount of close to death and sort of life reviews I've had, and I still maintain the same physical body. Um, I personally feel that so much happens just here. So much death, rebirth, so much clearing, so much like reviewing things that I wish I did differently, and finding peace in my heart and in my mind, and feeling like, if anything's judging me, I'm judging me. My connection to higher self and source, and what I'm growing and learning from, I have to answer to myself. And if I don't like it, I'm going to create an experience to maybe rectify it, maybe come to terms with it, maybe understand it more. Um, and I feel that's the same when we leave this body, because we're really having a soul experience, whether it's in this flesh suit or not. And the soul is what I feel we have an internal dialogue with when we're processing life, when we go through experiences, when we go through loss, when we go through tragedy, um, when we maybe like make a mistake, or gain the wisdom eventually, and get back up. I feel like when we exit the physical realm, we have maybe a bigger picture view, and we're able to see it in a way that we weren't able to before. And I think this whole concept of awakening and ascension is very much about lifting the veil between life and death, and recognizing that we are multidimensional, and that we can experience sort of a death crisis and be reborn into a much, much bigger picture that we might in previous lifetimes not have been able to easily carry, or a person just has to go to the other side to recreate a new adventure or a new thing on their path. And and I feel the spirits do go up to source energy to just reflect upon all of that, in order to develop that soul experience into something that can be grounded in the physicality of this human realm. I don't think we'd keep coming back and keep coming back if we didn't have something that we wanted to correct within ourselves and on the
Yeah.
planet and the planetary grid network, to take this planet and ourselves into a physical density that isn't so much in duality and war and just all this, right? So, but at the same time, there's other systems, there's other planets, there's other category Earths. And if you have a contract to work closely with the Earth realm, you might come back in service. You might forget that that's what you came to do. And I just think that the soul dialogue is set free from the physical plane to really reflect and have connections with the physical plane as much as it feels necessary for those souls and those agreements. And some get trapped, depending on the traumas they might have gone through. But I think in the bigger picture sense of it all, we, go home and get that that experience, and then we come to Earth to remember it as fully and totally as we possibly can, so that we can live in accordance to that divine presence that lives within us, so that we can be more God-centered, soul-centered, and holding unconditional love in a realm that really is wanting to socially engineer us into something we're not. And I think there's a bigger picture achievement there that the soul is experiencing, and takes its time out to kind of ask, where do we go next? Do we always have that choice? Is the question. And I bet these women would be able to answer better than me. When you go to the other side, how much are you in charge of that? Are you with somebody that helps you to make that next step? I don't know. I hope that kind of answered your question.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, what do you think? What's the difference between spirits and ghosts and entities and angels? And I know we all want to get into angels, because angels are just so cool. But I mean, how do you guys sort out the difference? And who's good and who's bad, and how do you keep the bad ones away from you?
Well, I have a very simple answer how I interpret it. To me, it's all spirit and the differences of the energy. So could even just say fear, degree of fear within a spiritual energy or lack of that, the opposite. Um, that's how I would define a ghost or a negative entity, that kind of thing. Yeah, that's my simple answer. That's
I like it. I like it. Law of attraction.
Yeah.
I have dealt with the negative, not by choice. Um, so I I'm gonna share something I always say on my shows, and I think Spirit gave me this. And what we perceive becomes what we believe, and it becomes our reality. Sometimes we're not looking for these things. But I think that when we live in this 3D existence on Earth, I always picture the ideal. If there ever was a perfect scenario for a human being, we would be in perfect balance, right? The perfect yin yang. So there has to be so much of say, if we want to call it evil, and so much of good. We would be perfectly grounded to Gaia, Earth, as well as connected to source energy, right? Through our energy centers or chakras. But there are things that come here, and there's a variety of ways they can. Sometime, and Augie, I know you and I off air have had many conversations, and even on my show about this. I don't. It took a long time for me, having been raised Roman Catholic, to not, and I'm not negating anybody's belief system here, but to unravel that there really isn't such a thing as hell, but there are lower astral realms, and I think that they've been here much longer. But I always get from spirit that us as a human race are a young being, if you will. We're still learning. Older races, ET races, benevolent beings, and what have you. They always say we're a young race, and but we have such a propensity for violence, and a lot of negativity and what have you. But I think we're still learning as a collective to kind of navigate this experience as a human being. I loved what Laura Eisenhower said, though, too. We don't just come here. There's many different places I think we come as a soul. Now, one thing I will add very quickly, and it was my co-host that said this about a month ago, and I think he's right. If we really look at something that comes from another dimension, we're looking at it with human eyes that it's evil. But how do we know that where it comes from, that they're not evil? They're just being who they're meant to be in the place where they are. They just happen to
Yep.
end up here. Hmm. It's an
Mhm.
interesting. Mhm.
Stuff. Lil,
Yeah.
Can
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Some signal. I love what's being said here, and I think we're all probably familiar with that phrase where spiritual being human experience. But the flip side of that is true also, and we kind of have to remember that we're humans having a spiritual experience, and so it depends on you a lot how open you want to be with that, because there is no over there. It's all happening at the same time, all in the same place. Even beings that could be on planets millions of years away from us, it's happening at the same time. So the connection is still there, the experience is still there. It depends on us as a human how comfortable we are with opening up to that. And I love what Lorelai said. I too as was raised Catholic. I love that phrase, a recovering Catholic, because yes, everything is evil, everything is a sin. We do tend to look at anything that we don't understand or that could be kind of a little unsettling as like, oh no, keep that away from me. That's evil. And maybe it is just misunderstood. Maybe it doesn't have to be good or evil. It's just neutral, because many humans are a balance of good and evil,
Mm.
and there's that neutral space. So anything outside of us can also have that experience. Like I believe Laura said, or Jenny, it's about the energy and that feeling, how you're receiving that energy. Does it feel good? Does it feel comfortable? Are you curious about it? Or is there alarms going off saying, stay away, back away, back away? So
Mm.
that's a big thing. It's all in how open you are to it.
I'm going to add one more thing. I love what you were saying. I just love this panel, and I'm so grateful to be a part of it. But, the experience I had in my previous home, including my partner thrown 15 feet across the kitchen, I mean, there were injuries, there were other people that experienced it. I can honestly tell you that had I not had the experience that I had in that home, I would not be doing what I'm doing today.
Mhm.
So sometimes I think when we look at something, even when we go through something, maybe one of the worst times we look at in our lives, like this is the worst thing that could ever happen. Part of like when I'm working with people teaching and mentoring, and some time has passed and we've had some time to see the bigger picture, if you will, and process it. There's usually either a message in it or there really is the proverbial, we hear it as a cliche, everything happens for a reason, but I think it's how we perceive it, like you were saying, Lily. And are you willing to look at what the lesson is in that experience? I did have some horrible experience with something that four entities, of pictures of them. I have all kinds of stuff. But look, I'm so grateful because look, I would not be doing, I know I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now. And I love what I'm doing.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Love
Yeah,
it.
'cause I believe it's our experiences that shape us to who we are.
Mhm.
I mean, mine started when I was a child, of course, and just escalated further and further and further. And then you realize through these experiences you're having, and like I've had a very traumatic life once upon a time ago, and it really shaped me in who I was for me to reach out and want to help other people. And that's why I do the work that I do. I mean, I've pretty much done everything you can think of in many different ways. And, like dealing with the dark forces and all of that, I distance away from it as much as I can. Just to give you just one little example, I've done clearing. I've been clearing people for many years in environments and homes and everything. And I was out one night with a friend of mine. He's a film producer, but he only produces horror movies. That's it. So we were out one night scouting, and I'm like, "Are you crazy? Like, what are we doing here?" Like I was pretty freaked out myself. So, anyways, I told him because he's got this kind of big ego, and he goes, "I'm not scared of anything," and I'm like, "Okay." So I said, "You should
Careful what
really
you ask
come on
for.
a house." I said, "You really should come on, whenever I'm doing a house clearing sometime with me." So, anyways, coincidentally enough, right? It was a couple of days later, I get an email from someone about a situation to do a clearing, and I can read into energy in seconds. And I thought, this is perfect. So I contacted my friend and I says, you know what, come with me to this house clearing. So I says, I'm picking you up because I didn't want him to back out because I knew this was going to be a little situation that wasn't good. So I picked him up. We go to this place, and long story short, we walk into his room. He lived with his parents. He was an older man. I walked into his room only where the only action was going on there. It was like what you'd see in the movies. Like things were it was like Ghostbusters, watching a Ghostbusters film. There was energy flying all over the place, things crawled, and we wanted to film that. My so-called friend, the horror producer, film producer, he ran out of there because I'm going outside for a smoke, right? I'm like, no, you're not.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
anyways, no, seriously, like they wouldn't let us to film it because I'm like, oh my God, this would be great on film. But anyways,
Mm.
so I cleared it as much as I could. And what I find too is I knew what was going on and how this created. So with the person that I was focused on, he brought this energy. He was in Peru and he messed and got himself with the wrong people, and he disrespected cultures out in Peru, if you're familiar with certain things out there.
Yep.
So he brought back a lot of this dark energy that he karmically created into his home. So I was telling him how he can work on himself to clear this and so on, all of this. And it took me a week to clear it out of myself when I got home. That's how
Wow.
bad it was. Like literally a week. Like I'm like,
Wow.
this is just, yeah. So I don't do as many house clearings anymore. I actually turn a lot of them down in certain things, because I don't want to be a part of that energy in that world and such. The house clearings I've done are like through referrals now, more or less. Like my new website I'm creating, I'm not adding that onto my services now of house
Mhm.
clearing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Keep
There's
Amazing.
a lot of
send
experiences. I just don't want to be near it. part of the darker forces. When I
Yeah.
feel it, if I'm out or whatever, I block it right away and I keep moving on with my life. I don't want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Pe
Well,
People can sense stuff too because,
Yeah.
the thing people don't realize is how powerful we are as human beings, how powerful our minds are, our words, our thoughts, and our emotions, and we all have gifts, and some people I we had
Yeah.
something sent to us at our new place here, um, it was probably about a month ago, and crazy stuff started happening. And I have a German Shepherd. I have a really good friend that's a really great animal communicator as well. Like I said, that's why I'm budding. I've taken her course, but she told me the other day, my dog, my German Shepherd, she's never met an animal so connected to the universe and to universal consciousness and that deeply psychic. And, I won't get into the whole story, but my point is, I know from her and my cat right away. Whenever I'm working with families too, for example, because people that have never dealt with this, right? We've been told this isn't possible, right?
mm,
The proverbial imaginary friend of a small child. I always tell parents, find out more about the friend, because I think children and animals can see spirit very freely, and they can. I really, and so we were all once children before, right? So that's why I also believe we all have this within it, within it, or within
yeah.
us, I should say, to be able
Mhm.
to connect to what we maybe can't see or hear.
I love that. I love that. And I would love to move into just to follow up on clearing. When I was living in North Carolina, there was this road that I traveled like 3 times a week. And every time I came to a stop sign in this particular area, it was a crossroad. I always almost went through it. I always almost went through it. And for a minute, I had the vision of like a huge accident there sometime. So I decided that I was going to do a clearing on that road. And, I don't know, maybe it was synchronistic. Maybe I put the own idea in my head, but I never had that magnetic pull that almost pulled me through that intersection every time again after that. It just stopped. So, but I would love to move into the realm of angels. And Lily, you have piqued my curiosity. Would you love to open with your
Story. Well, you
yeah.
know this story, Nori. I'm pretty sure that I shared it with you when it happened. Um, I, as a recovering Catholic, my whole thought about angels and things, I kind of was reluctant to delve into that, but I started to learn more and make more connections, and kind of found out that my guardian angel is Archangel Michael. Now, I thought that a lot because that was my own sense of not being worthy, like why him, why me, that whole thing. But one time, so I'm in Florida. Sorry for those of you that are stuck in the snow. I feel for you because I grew up in New York. My heart goes out to you. But I am in Florida. I'm in Central Florida, and back in 2017, we had Hurricane Irma headed our way. And it was a crazy hurricane. It was supposed to come one way, so the people on one coast were told to evacuate to one side. Then it turned. Now those people that went that way had to come this way. Us in the middle were like, "There's nothing for us to do. The roads are stuck." And I was a little bit scared. I was a little bit panicked. This was like my first big hurricane being here, and I remember laying down in my bed, fully awake. The window would have been like right here. And it was this two-story house. I was on the second floor, and I hear workers outside, right outside the window and the wall right behind me. And I'm thinking, what the heck is going on? And I could tell, like there were ladders and scaffolding, so workers from the roof down and from the bottom up. And I'm thinking, why is the house being painted? There's a hurricane coming. What is going on? But I could feel this and hear this team working outside the house, like doing things to the outside of the house. Like, what is that? So I get up and I walk to the foot of the bed and I look down to where our bathroom in that house was, and it was a long room. And at the end of the room was a huge window, one of those frosted windows, bathroom windows, above the tub. And I'm looking, and I could still hear, and I'm seeing the shadows in the window. So I like, what is going on? All of a sudden, the frosting of the window clears enough for me to see Michael hanging off a scaffold, working at the thing, looked at me like, yeah, I got you. And all of a sudden, I just knew the angels were bubble wrapping my house, literally
Wow.
doing. So, hurricane came. It turned. It turned again, and it went right over my house. You can look it up. The eye went right over Central Florida. I was awake all night, felt it go right over my house. Next
Wow.
morning, come out, there's no damage to my house. We lost maybe two shingles off the roof, and the only damage we had to the outside here in Florida, the when you have a pool, there are these cages that they put over the pools, and they're like metal with screens around them. Only damage we had was from the neighbor's cage that was destroyed. One piece fell into our side, and the screen was ripped. Both the houses on either side of ours, extensive damage, their cages destroyed,
Wow.
trees, everything destroyed. Our house was intact. So much so that we had a flagpole mount on the front of the house, you know, where you stick the pole of the flag in, and we'd forgotten to take it down in preparation. We forgot to take it down. Flag was intact. Not a single damage, not a tear, nothing. The
You were
angels.
bubble wrapped.
I hope.
Wow.
I could see, Lily, when you were saying what was happening, I could literally see it when you as I was feeling.
I saw you smiling. I was like, she gets it. Yeah. Yeah.
Bubble wrapping your house. Now that's something.
I realized that that's what I was hearing. That like the tearing and they were bubble wrapping my house.
I love it. I love it. I had an experience with Michael. I was working for hospice, and I worked 3 12-hour shifts in a row. Laura Lee, you know. It was the end of my third shift, and I was exhausted. And I'm in a little Nissan Juke, and I didn't see this Hummer coming. I pulled out, and I literally felt something in the back seat, but then I felt my car get picked up and pulled back, and that Hummer missed me by
Yeah.
just, I mean, like that. It made me a believer. Let me say that. It made me an absolute believer.
I have
Yeah.
an angel story.
Yeah.
I was working out in the community very quickly as a Victorian Order of Nurses in Canada. You know the name, it's an old organization. Anyways, I was on an old country road, middle of the winter. I was 6 months pregnant with my first child. And I mean, we went through all kinds of things to get pregnant with this child. Not that any child doesn't matter, but I mean, I was paranoid. Was driving, I was in a hurry, I had to get there to do an intravenous, and there were no signs or anything, and next thing I know, I'm driving straight, there was a turn in the road I didn't see, and I went right down an embankment, and I opened the door, I could get it open a crack, and my cell wouldn't work out there. I'm getting goosebumps as every time I tell this story. And I'm thinking, "Oh my god, what am I gonna do?" The snow was up to my waist, I'm pregnant, there's no houses around, there's no way I had this little four-cylinder car that I was gonna go up the hill. And at that time, even though I've had these experiences my whole life, I didn't realize I could hear my guides and the angels, and I'm saying almost started to cry, and I'm thinking, "What am I gonna do?" And I literally heard so loudly, "Get back in the car, put it in reverse." And in my head, you communicate with spirit, especially I'm arguing, going, I'm not saying out loud, I go, that's not gonna work. What are you talking? I'm stuck. And I heard it so loudly. I believe obviously Archangel Michael isn't the only archangel, but he's so strong and so forceful, right? Get in the car and back up. I swear to all that is holy. That car was like I had 1,000 angels pushing it from the front. I went right back up onto the road, was able to turn around, no damage, nothing. To this day, there is no other explanation. It had to be angels.
Had to be
We are
angels.
never alone.
Never.
No.
So
And now I definitely feel like yeah, some of the situations I've been in, just unbelievable. Just feeling that presence and that protection. And then I'm like, man, I'm so sorry. I have a lot to like look out for, or try and protect. And then sometimes I wonder if they're just gonna um quit. But no, uh man,
They'll never
what you were
quit.
just talking about, that story, I had a similar one, almost going off the road, plunging, to my death, and the just the synchronicity of just, how I was helped and supported, and how it all like, kind of fell together. You know, uh, yeah, I won't go into it, but it was kind of similar. So,
Hmm.
love to hear it. Mhm.
Sometimes strange things happen that should not be possible, but it happened.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Because even if you
And
look
the
back though,
first and the first thing we do is right afterwards that we're reaching out for things that can explain it away.
Mm.
Why in the world do we do that?
mhm,
Well, some of
Because
us
there's
are recovering Catholics, that made us do it, but yeah.
It's called it's not possible, it's not
Mhm.
logical. How could a car in 3
mm,
feet of snow, 4-cylinder at an incline like this, just magically back right back up and not a
yeah.
scratch? Like, there was no
Amazing.
other explanation, it had to be
Uh,
something
you,
supernatural.
you had some help.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even like I worked on call on and off for many, many years at the hospice, and um, every now and then, whenever somebody had passed, I would find a feather on the floor, and I would take a photo of it and hang on to that. And then, of course, I was told to delete the hospice album by the hospice, but that's another story. But
Mm.
you'd find feathers. I would find feathers, not all the time, and even sometimes if I picked up a feather, it would start melting. Like it would just start melting from my hand. I put it on the
Yeah.
table. I had a phone call come in and I put the feather there. And my boss happened to walk in at that time. And I turned around, the feather was gone.
Wow.
So I don't know if you saw any feathers at the hospice as well. I mean, our angels. So if you look at certain people, let's say, especially whenever they're terminally ill, sometimes you might wonder and like, yeah, they're just kind of staring into space because they're
Mm.
communicating with their
Mm.
guides and their loved ones and their angelic beings and such. I mean, even when my dog passed just recently here, I zoomed in right away, saw her angelic team around her with the message that they were giving her and explaining to her everything and so on. So we
Mm.
always have angelic teams and angels and guides there for us at any given time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
They're
writing a
there.
book I'm writing a book right now, so if there's any nurses or it's such a terrible name, but death doulas, first responders, and I have a few stories already, and it's the incredible things that we witness at the bedside as people transition from here, as I call it, going back home. And there are
Mm.
some incredible, incredible stories, just what people have shared here.
Mhm.
And I
Wow.
think it gives people hope. And I think it gives
Yeah.
people that they realize, because so many people, part of the problem about dying and why I was so drawn to near death experiences, it's almost like people get a little peek hole into the window to see what
Mm.
happens when we pass and then to come back and let us know. Because that's what people fear is the unknown. Once you know that
True.
you go on forever, and, I have yet to run into someone, unless they built it into this experience. When we leave the body, nobody remembers that there was something painful or awful. It's usually very peaceful, including
Mm.
Nori. You can say this probably yourself as well, Jenny. When people pass, even if they were in a lot of pain, it's almost like I've almost seen like a light shine over their face, and the look of it's
Absolutely.
indescribable.
Absolutely. Kim, I
Mhm.
know you have an angel story
Yes,
in there.
just picking up
Do
on
you?
Laura and Kimmy. Even yapping at quiet.
I love hearing all these stories. I have three. I have three that I could share, and I'm not sure which one to share first. And as I say that, there is one that comes to mind, but it is a combination of dark and light. And I knew that after I had the experience, I was like, okay, it's because I'm supposed to tell it when the opportunity arises. So, okay, as I just said, I don't know what story to tell. This is the story I'll tell. But I won't dwell too much on the dark part of it because yeah, I don't like dredging any of that up. But basically, in a nutshell, about 5 years ago, I um I found myself in a situation where I didn't really, so let me just say, I didn't know what was going on at all the time. I didn't know that what I'm about to share was even possible. And I'm sure everyone here does know. But at the time, I did not. So this was like coming out of left field, very confusing, distressing situation. Basically, I found my energy being siphoned, and it was this ongoing thing. And yeah, see, it's already so we're gonna gotta clear out of that already. So I was very confused. I didn't know what was going on, felt my life force energy was being drained. I was having a hard time concentrating. I felt like I was getting ill, and I was good. Like none of this made any sense whatsoever. And I really felt like no one at all is going to be able to understand or like believe me. And I just felt so alone. And I ended up having one friend out of the blue who just reached out and said, "Hey, Kim, let's talk." And I was like, "Okay." And I was just thinking a general catch up conversation. And I shared with her, I felt safe enough to share with her what was going on. And she said, "Well, have you asked Archangel Michael to cut the cord?" And that I'd never even heard of that before. Now I'm very familiar with that. And I also feel very close to Archangel Michael at this point. But at the time, that was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to take whatever advice I can get right now. And so we had this conversation, and at the end of the conversation, I got a little sticky pad and I wrote a few things down on there. And one of the very like first thing was ask Archangel Michael to cut the cord. And then I had a couple other things on there, and I took that sticky and I put it on my wall. And I just proceeded with my evening. I went and sat on the couch, and I lived alone at the time. No pets whatsoever, no windows open. I was sitting on the couch just watching some TV, and all of a sudden, what my experience was is I thought that a bug had like flown in front of my face, and it was like a dark gray, dark bug, and so it was, and because it was like so close and just it was so noticeable for me that I freaked out. I jumped back and I was like, "Oh my God." And I'm looking around like, "Where's the bug? Where's the bug?" And this all happened very fast. So as that thing flies by me and I jump back, I freak out. The sticky on the wall falls to the ground. And I'm just in this space of going like, what just happened? I don't know what just happened. And I'm just sort of processing, taking in the moment. And I think I had the thought of, was this something related to Archangel Michael? But I wasn't really clear. And I was just kind of still processing. I went to bed that night. I woke up the next morning and I felt light years different. I was free of now, as I say that, I actually had to do this more than once, but that was the first time that I actually felt free of the situation. And it was such a beautiful blessing. So the only reason why I want to share that story is anybody else experiencing something similar. And I'm seeing 555 just as I say that. I'm on the West Coast here. So that's my confirmation that I shared the right story. Ask Archangel Michael to cut the cord. And I believe that there are so many different pathways to resolve a lot of these situations. But I can certainly vouch for that one being very, very powerful. And I agree. We are never alone. They're always with us. And what I have learned, I will finish in just a second here. What I have learned, and I believe to be true, is that the angels help us for two reasons. And one of them is, or I'm not phrasing this right, but basically we need to ask for their help. So they're there all the time, but they allow us to also have that human free will. And so if you're going through something, talk to them, ask, they want to help. And
Yep,
that's my story.
It's beautiful.
Wow. Oh,
absolutely.
I mean, I think miracles are a natural ability that we hold. I mean, connection with just our higher self and just invoking, all of this. I'd share a real quick one.
Yeah, take
Mhm.
your time. We're good.
Okay. Yeah, this was when I was just kind of all over the place and my mom just was very concerned about where I was heading in life. Didn't quite understand the terminology and just the sort of world that I was in and the downloads I was getting and just the intensity of everything. And so I was definitely that sort of worrisome child. So in my eyes, I was sort of living a double life. Like, okay, I'm not gonna try with the with my family or anybody. I'm just gonna keep doing what I do, which is just following, I don't know, my intuition and guidance from spirit. And even though it got me in a lot of dangerous situations, I remember one time I had to go to the airport, and I was staying with my mom, and I was visiting her. I no, this was before I had my kids, and I didn't have a whole lot of money, and I was just sort of, I think I was living in the Adirondacks at the time, and I was going on road trips in the winter to escape some of the winter and go to, different national parks and hike around and like come back. And I was just kind of all over the place. My mom's like, "This isn't practical. What are you doing with your life?" And all this stuff. Um, and anyway, so she's like, "Well, anyway, it's great to have a visit. Gonna take you to the airport." So we're heading out to the airport. And I just told her, "Stop, just stop the car." Um, and we already like kind of pulling up to a stop sign, but I said, don't move. I'm getting out. I said, I see something. And I jumped out of the vehicle and I pulled $50 out of the ground back. And I'm like, she's like, what in the, did you just pull that out of the grass? And I go, yeah, I just had this feeling that, cause I was like really low on money. Right. And I just had this feeling like something nudged me, like, go, like, stop, go over there. And, we're talking green grass. So dollar bills would easily be like camouflaged. And I even tell people, and I tell them, they're like, you can call my mom. So I pull the $50 out of the grass and we drive to the airport. She takes off and she takes off somewhere where I can't like reach her. I realized she dropped me off on the wrong day and I needed $50 to change my ticket. I
Oh,
handed the
wow.
$50 to the clerk. And I was like, this is a very special $50 bill, by the way. And I would have been stranded, and I just picked it out, and I had no reason why. I mean, I was just gonna get on the plane, and it wasn't like I'm like, "Please let me pick up money off the ground." But, of course, for a long time, you would see me walking around constantly looking at the ground like, "Alright, is there any more?"
Lori, you
But
know
this
what the beauty in
I was
that is?
able to when I got out of, like, poverty consciousness, I would manifest like that. Sorry, go ahead, Gloria.
I was just gonna say, you know what the beauty in that is that I think anybody listening, and sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was just so touched by it. I think a lot of people hearing this is that you listened. You were open to hearing. So many people dismiss whether you want to call it your higher self, that inner voice, the voice of your guides, whatever you want to call it. You had the courage and the wisdom and the knowing not to question it, to stop, get your mom to stop, regardless of what she thought. And look at how beautifully that worked out for you. What a gorgeous, everybody's got such great stories.
Mm.
Love it. Augie, you got any angel stories?
Well, yeah, but I got this one that I haven't thought about for a very long time. That was back in Norway when I was in the military. I drove home over a weekend one time, and that the military base was on the west coast, and I was way inland, so it was a roundabout way to drive about 2 hours, and I got tired. Halfway home, I was so tired I could hardly keep my eyes open, and I was alone in the car, and I fell asleep, and I went right off the road. But right there, it happened to be somebody's driveway. And I went up the driveway all the way up just about to the house. And I realized, wait a minute, I drove off the road. I should have been dead now, because about 15, 20 feet on one side, there was 100-meter ravine, that 300 feet ravine straight down just about. And on the other side, there was a bunch of trees, and then there was more way down.
Wow.
And I thought about that. if I had waited just a split second later before I went off the road, I would have been dead. And that was too much of a coincidence for me to accept. I knew there was some help involved in that one, but I hit his driveway driving off the road.
And perfectly.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Mhm.
Love that. I love that. Well, back in the day, when Lily and I first met, Lily, remember when you sent me the angels to host the archangels? There,
Yes.
yeah. So it was a thing, they're like the angels were coming on Sunday night, and you have to get your environment prepared. You clean, and you have to get some flowers and some things. And at 10 o'clock, when they're supposed to arrive, you open the door, you let them in. And I have chills right now because I have to tell you, for the week that they were with me, there was a lot of things that went on in my apartment that never went on before. Some of them were funny, like sometimes I felt like they were knocking me up the side of the head, and other times they were pure miraculous, just things being moved into a place that was so meaningful that I could not deny that they were there. That was fun. Remember that, Lil?
I do. I remember that, and that was someone had sent them to me, and I was still a little skeptical during that time, actually. But it was an interesting experience. And then when I sent them to you, because that was kind of the process, and you send them to someone else, and you shared the stories with me, and I thought, wow, that's so cool. That was still in the time when I was kind of like, I don't know, but I love hearing all these stories because I know I would bet everyone can look back at their lives and go, that was a time, that had to be an angel or a spirit guide or something. I know I sitting here, I look back at my life and I go, there are many times that I should have been dead. I
Yeah.
it just should have
Yeah.
happened, but it didn't
Yeah.
because something interrupted it or something made something else happen. And now I know, oh, okay, it was you. And like Kim said, the angels, they you do have to ask for help, but they do intervene on their own. And one thing that they love is attention. So they're loving this right
Mhm.
now being spoken about and people listening to this because they love attention because they want people to talk to them and they want people to ask for help. That's kind of their role, to kind of help us out. So they love that. I actually talk to Michael constantly. I have it on my to-do list. I'm a planner person, and every day on my to-do list, I have his name written down to remind myself to talk to him about something. Because if I
Can I?
don't, hmm,
Sorry. No, sorry, Lily. I cut in.
no,
I have a
if
bit
I
of a
don't,
Well, I was going to say, so for people listening that are thinking that angels were always just of a religious nature, they are found in every culture, every history, every story. But what I'd love to share, and I'm getting this from Spirit, is there's not just the familiar archangels we're familiar with, right? Like Archangel Raphael with the healing and Archangel Michael, and we could go on and on and on. There's Uriel. I mean, those are the ones most people hear. There's infinite number of angels, and from what if you a person that goes into the literature, there's 7 different levels of angels too that we can deal with. So, what I always teach people, especially if they're new to angels, and I agree 100%, including if you want to know your angels more, just say, I give you my permission to to work more closely with me, to communicate with me, to work together. One of the most beautiful gifts I think we can give in our lifetime is service to others, right? Ask them to show you the way or how, or say you need, a light in the dark. You're having a really difficult time in your life. And if you don't know what to say or who to speak to, just put that intention, call on the angel that would best be suited to help you. When I get in my car, and it's a habit now, I always say, angels, please protect me and all the cars around me as well. And same as if I need a parking spot. And
Yeah.
well, because I have a bad back,
Yeah.
right? So if it's close and I ask for it, or I have to be at an appointment, and I'm running late. It always just works out beautifully with their help that they were running behind or and then when it doesn't work out, I've set the intention that I may not know the reason why it hasn't worked out, but maybe something else could have happened had I say if
Yeah.
I got say a train ended up in my path and I was supposed to get somewhere and I was late. There's a reason why that happened.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
I'm really glad that you brought that up, Lauralee, because it is true. Angels aren't just the pictures that we see. The thing is, they will show up in a way that is familiar to you.
Yes.
So depending upon what religion or what background or what cultural beliefs you have been brought up with, they will show up that way for you because that's familiar to you. It's not right, it's not wrong.
They don't want to
It's just
scare you.
exactly. It's just so it's funny. Like I was talking to someone about these things one time, and she said to me, "Oh, it's so funny that you see so and so. It was actually not an angel, an ascended master, but she said it was so funny that you see him showing up, in long white robes and beard, and it was kind of like that's not what he really looks like." And in my mind I was like, yeah, I know, but that's the familiar, that's what would work
Mm,
for me. Like
mm,
now I click that person. If it shows up as a light or it shows up as a thunderbolt or something, I'm not going to know. So they're going to show up in a way that is familiar to you
Yeah.
in whatever um, teaching you have for you, and that's perfectly fine. They're all the same. It's all the same thing. There's not that separation.
Yeah.
love that. Love it. Love it.
Yeah. Another thing I do every time I get in the car going somewhere, I have a 20-second ritual that I do, and that I do it every time. And that is, I tell the car I love it. I bless
Me
the car,
too.
and I let the universe know that I'm be safe
I'm
and
on the road.
free. And
My car's on its
I,
last legs, and I tell it all the time. Oh, and my son named him. We bought it secondhand like 12 years ago, and I always, Harry, I just love you. I picture you whole. I picture you healthy. I swear to everything out there, and it's had a few little those lights that come on that we sometimes pretend aren't there. It has happened so many times, and I've done that. Those lights go.
Mhm.
Anybody else drives it? The
True.
lights are there. It works. I'm so
Yeah.
glad you said that. I got
Absolutely.
goosebumps, Augie.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we do the
But
same
like
thing. My
even
daughter
the
does the
day,
same
like even the
that
day I got like my new vehicle, I had to get a new vehicle. The day I got in my truck, I had to go to the dealership to pick up my car, and I get in the truck, no gauges were working, like none. And I'm like, I have an hour. I have an hour to get to the dealership. Like, are you kidding me? Like, no gauges were working. It the only thing that came up was I had four flat tires,
Wow.
right? Which I knew I didn't. But I go to the gas station really quickly, anyways, fill up my tires, and I'm like, please God, just get me to the dealership. And I go up there, and everything was fine. I'll do that. And I'm like, this never happened before. Like why weren't the gauges working? Like, are you kidding? Like,
that's
so
strange.
we get different confirmations that yes, we're on the right path to do certain
I love
things.
that.
Right.
I
Okay, I'm
love
so excited. I interrupted what you were going to share. I'm sorry. So you were saying you
So
started to say you picture your car like healthy and whole, or you said it's 20
yeah,
seconds?
yeah, it was fine, right? But I mean, as soon as I turned on the truck because it was cold, I mean, no gauges were working. I'm like, what? Like, what? That never happened, right? Like, never happened. And I'm like, what?
Mm.
I haven't, like, what? So I'm like, get me to the dealership. Just get me to the dealership so I can pick up my car. So it was just confirmations that yes, you do need this vehicle. Because I'm like, should I wait till the spring to get it? Should I, all of these things, and my dad was giving me different signs from the spirit world to get this new vehicle and all of these things, right? So I mean, I got tons of stories, but that's just one of the little examples that, we
that
have
was
Yeah.
that was
spirits with
that
us.
was
We have
clear, right? That was a clear
Oh, I
sign.
get very
Yeah.
clear, like very clear to the right to the point because I asked for that.
Mhm.
Like I asked for it. I get demanding, like I want to sign right now. Right. I'm not kidding around. So and then I get it instantaneously.
So there's a question in the chat room, and uh, Hassan Lee,
Oh,
you,
Kasoon.
I
Kasoon.
might ask, I might ask him or her to clarify it a little bit, because the question is, what's your opinion about duality and oneness? So is that duality and oneness related to angels? Let's start there, and maybe you can clarify the question.
I know who Kasoon is because he comes to the Angel Rock and the other show quite a bit. It's a he.
Ah,
And
thank you.
so anybody that wants to jump in there, he'll probably clarify for you. He'll probably type it in there if you want him to know. Like where are you talking about? You want to start with angels?
Yeah. So what do you guys' opinion about the duality and oneness? Personally, I think
Gemini.
that you've you've got to you've got to navigate into that 0 point, right into that neutrality or the higher energy, in order to make the connection, right? If you're in duality, if you're struggling, between good and bad, right and wrong, you're not really going to be making that connection. But
Mhm.
that might just be an entry level, comment.
Remember I said at the beginning of the show, and again, I always tell people I don't know all the answers. I don't think any of us will know them completely till we go back home
He
ourselves.
does. No,
But
just
the
kidding.
thing is, I think that ideally, right, if we were to be in duality, we would be perfectly grounded, perfectly connected to source, in balance all around. But the one thing that I think we forget about, and it's very hard to remember versus as a soul energy, we know right away, is we are a part of each other. Every single part of ourselves, right down to a grain of sand, to the grass, to the animals, there is no separation, right? And on the other side, there's nothing but love. I think that's some of the reasons why we come here, to, especially on this planet, to experience the breadth and depth of the emotions that there are to experience here.
Mhm.
And so, in a way, there really isn't. I know what you're saying, Nori, and I agree with you for talking about energy and vibration, right? Because higher vibrational beings, as it's been shown to me, they almost have to bend down lower, and we almost have to raise our vibration to sort of meet somewhere in the middle, or if you will, dial in the frequency with a radio. But I don't know. I think that would be the perfect state of being, but I don't think there is any separateness with the oneness. We just don't
Mhm.
remember it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mm.
And I just want to back up for a minute, because I was making a joke when I said Augie has all the answers, but I have to tell you the truth. If you guys have not read Augie's book, I have to tell you, there isn't a question that I can pose to Augie that he can't answer. He is really one of the no, honestly, I don't know what his IQ is,
Well, because they
but
had the universal download, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
you got all that information. Just
he
you
does.
are very intelligent, but I mean, you
He's
got all that
he's
at once too.
traveling under the radar screen tonight, but Augie is a wealth of information. Yeah, yeah. So,
Well,
so what do you guys?
after that one, I just got to say though that when it connectedness with the spiritual entities and so on, there was a, s- a 7 foot tall guy that was lit up like a light bulb. And I asked him, "What is your name?" He said, "We don't use names.
No, no.
We visualize the one we want to contact, and we have the active contact." So, in other words, they think of whoever, anywhere in the universe, because we all are connected. So they get the message instantly, even if they are billions of light years away, they get the message instantly.
I love that. I believe that's true. I
Yeah.
do. Yeah, yeah.
Augie, were your ears
Boomerang
burning?
effect.
Because I teach this thing that you talked about once before, and anybody can try it when you're standing in a line. You talked about it many times, and or on cue if you're over in Europe. And the person in front of you, you said to stare at the back of their neck right there, and just
Yeah.
keep projecting and thinking, turn around, turn
Yeah.
around. And it may not work right away, but it does work. But that's the power of who, without being egotistical, who we each are as human beings and how connected we really are, right?
Oh, we are.
Absolutely. For
Mhm.
everybody out there listening to this, try it sometime because it works.
It
When you're
does.
walking behind somebody on the street, or if you're in a football game and look down and you see somebody, look at the base of the skull,
Mhm.
just right about there. That's the top of the brainstem. And tell them in your mind, turn around, turn around.
Mhm.
I get, well, maybe not every time, but a lot of times you will find them start being restless and looking around and wonder if there's something going on that they need to know about, because they may not understand your message, but they just might turn around too.
Mm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, intention and telepathy and all these things, it's
Yep.
we're breaking through all that, and that duality question, I mean, integration of polarity and everything is what removes the seals and fences in our DNA to begin to switch on all that has been dormant, that, throws us all these psyops and indoctrination programs to keep us out of balance so that we don't achieve these other levels. I mean, our whole of society is really designed to just keep us really in that vibration, and there's so much that we can
Yep.
communicate with one another, like you just said. And if there were less like signals coming from like 5G and just all this, sort of interference that's constant, we would be really able to communicate without words in a really incredible way. Because I feel so many are guides in the flesh. We have our spirit guides, but those in service to humanity that are doing, the work that we can all just be there for each other in that way. If we could just listen.
Mm.
You know what I
Mhm.
want to ask quickly? Does anybody have any stories about earth angels, like being sick? Because I've heard so many that are
So
so
glad you're
incredible.
saying that.
Sorry?
I'm so glad you're saying that because I was thinking, I was kind of
Where
nervous. Do you guys believe that there are earth angels? I love that, Laura.
About it though, somebody had an accident and somebody shows up right in the nick of time. Maybe it's a healthcare professional or somebody from the fire department or whatever. And then, as soon as the crisis has averted, nobody can
Yeah.
find this person. Nobody knew who
Yeah.
this person
Yep.
was or anything
Yeah.
like that, right? Hmm.
Yeah, I
Actually, um,
That
wait, Lily.
that
actually,
is probably what is the pure angel, because angel mean messenger.
Yeah.
And that is probably what they came here to do, a job or give a message to someone, and then they're off doing something
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
Lil,
They
what were
come
you?
in all forms. Like they can even come in animal forms.
Yeah. Mhm.
Like
Yes.
any energy, any being at all, they can come to you. Like
Oh,
even
yeah.
let's say if you're swimming, right? I've been in a situation before in Hawaii. I've had many near death experiences myself, and I was in a situation where I'm like, uh-oh, right? I've been, and then a wave took me off the current because I felt just an energy all of a sudden take me over to another wave. So it can be in the water, it can be in like an animal, it can be like in a human being or anything, because
Absolutely.
energy is energy, right? It's like
Totally.
it's like one of those stories where you're in the middle of the mountains and you crash a plane or you get stuck or something, and all of a sudden you get gravitated, there's no food, and you're like, I'm gonna eat maybe this fig or like a berry or something, right? And you get guided over to something. Like there's so many different energies in it, and I just feel it's like go by your intuition, in all ways possible.
And
Mm.
that's the
Always.
thing, like we get so thrown into our survival chakra and into panic mode, and this is why there's so much fear constantly being thrown at us because we can't think straight. And it's just like survival energy is not really connected with intuition. I remember I did a bunch of wilderness expedition courses, and that's what my training was in, and just seeing how the animal kingdom responds to different energetics was so wild. um and one time I was swimming, and I had gotten so far away from the boat because I was following like the streamline of the dolphins, And they kind of like went off, and I realized that there's no way, I'm so exhausted that I'm going to be able to swim back. I can barely even like see where they all went. And I just and instead of like, okay, if I panic, I'm gonna screw myself. And I just like held space, and I just sent the message to the dolphins, can you please guide me back? And just I was holding that in my heart. I didn't speak it, I didn't say it, but I'm just like, they're gonna come back, they're gonna come back. And they did, and they carried me all the way back to the boat. And I was like,
Yeah.
did that just happen?
Wow.
And just things like that. And like when my friends and everything was fine, but it's like my cats healed me. They were like wiping my tears and like massaging my face.
Aw, so true.
I'm like,
There's a
True.
video on that's gone viral years ago on a Chinese traffic cam in the middle of the night. I think it's 3 a.m. And there's a car that turns, and then there's an old man going on a bicycle, and out of nowhere, this vehicle starts coming. It's going to hit him, and all of a sudden, you see this flash of light. Next thing
Yeah.
you know, they're on the side of the road. The guy thinks he's hit him, and then all of a sudden, you see this being with a hood on, all dressed in black, like jeans and a hoodie. It looked
Yeah.
like the hands almost were glowing, and they just slowly walk off the camera. That one
Yeah.
always was so profound when I've watched that one. It's really easy to find. I'm sure most
Mhm.
people have seen it if you've looked into
Yeah.
Angel. Hmm.
I wanted to go back to your question, Lorelai. There are such things as earth angels, in angels that are incarnate, and I actually, when I pass them, sometimes I see them in a store or a restaurant or something. I could feel them and I could see them, and sometimes they don't know, because not all of us that are here sharing this experience are human. There's there's a mix going on down here,
Wow.
and some of them, there are yeah, they are angels in human forms. They might not even know it, they might not even know what their purpose is, but
Mhm.
something will happen. There's a reason that they are here, and some of them do know it. And some of the most troubled people are incarnated angels, because they haven't figured out, they feel different and they haven't figured that out. But yeah, it's pretty amazing. I love when I see one, walking by, and I'm just like, I'm like, like a fangirl, like, oh, angel.
And
Lily,
usually they
what do you,
don't see you.
Uh,
What?
Lily, what do you notice different about them? Sorry, I cut off your comment.
It's hard to explain. It's just, I just know, like, they're in their being. There's like an aura about them, an energy. Basically, it's like I pick
Okay.
up on the energy. There's a vibration about them that I know. Yeah, they're not human. They are different, and there's different types of angels. So it's sometimes they're physical. I could see like their face. Like, it's just, it's a very cool experience. It's just like, wow,
Wow.
like I said, fangirl. Angel.
the thing is,
Sorry to cut you off,
feel
Lorelai.
Oh, you didn't cut me off. I've talked so much. I feel bad. I'm glad Kip spoke up and everybody else. Now you can see
I
why I have a show because I keep talking.
Well, actually,
I'm glad
guys,
to have some of you on my show.
yeah, yes, Laura.
Oh, I just wanted to say, I mean, when we think about it, when we get injured, or when there's trouble, when there's conflict, when there's tragedy, we know when our physical body experiences it, nature and our physical body knows how to repair itself. It's just instinctual. It just knows what
Great.
to do. It's really the mind control that tricks us out of so many things, that keeps us in a state of stagnation, or things that really start to like impact us. And I think it's the same with the injuries in life. There's an immune system response that's in the form of spirit, in the form of earth angels and guides, that has an immediate response. But if we're, in the fear and the survival, sometimes we notice the things that reinforce it, versus seeing the synchronicities and seeing the flow and magic of life that is bringing to us the medicine and the guides and the earth angels that will help us to get us out of those predicaments. Because I would kind of test it, because there's so many predicaments. I'm like, all right, now I'm just gonna like really just start to really get to know what's going on here.
Mhm.
How my mindset would determine what I was able to observe and see. And how, the dark energies kind of yanking on me and making things worse and more chaotic, versus something that is miraculous and just lifting me out of it. And it had so much to do with where I was holding my energy. It was — so I just wanted to add that. I noticed
Yeah.
it different instantly.
Love it. We only have about 4 minutes left. If we could just go around really quick and maybe tell people how they can reach you or your website or whatever you would like to share before we close. That'd be great. Jen, we'll go around again.
Well, if you want to book a reading with me, soulworkwithjenny.com. That's the best way. I'm all over social media. You can find me, Jenny Cousins, Jenny G Cousins. My YouTube channel, I do weekly videos and tell you what to expect every single day with the energies, how it affects you, how it works through you, and the weekly how to manifest, what days not to, what days are better, and so on, plus more information. You can catch my column, SF Yoga Magazine, to read about that. You can even send me in a question there, and I read your energy and give you my information back. Twitter, I'm all over. You can look me up on there. You'll find me.
Thanks, Jen.
Bottom line.
Laura, how can people reach you?
Me?
Laura.
I did.
Oh, me?
Oh, yes.
Laura, okay.
Oh, sorry. I'm
It
sorry.
cut out.
Oh,
It cut
yeah.
out.
So my website's cosmicguide.org, and most of the links to social media is there. I not on YouTube anymore, been banned, but I have Rumble. I have a subscription podcast, and I try and keep it updated. I'll be launching a new website actually next year, and have its own portal and own thing that nobody can
Great.
censor and mess with.
Yeah.
And my book you can find on Amazon. It's Awakening the Truth Frequency, and it's been wonderful to be with you guys and meet you.
So
Thank you so
good
much
to
for having me.
So good. Excellent.
Thank you.
And O'Neill, how can people reach you?
Yeah, real easy. They can go to KimO'NeillCoaching.com, and O'Neill is Oneill, and links to my YouTube. I've been doing a lot more on YouTube these days, is over there, and they can find everything else there too.
Wonderful. Laura Lee. I'm here like
Um,
MNOP, no.
Thank you so much for having me on. If you guys ever want to get a hold of me, get a hold of me on facebook.com/the Angel Rock, or you just reach out to me. I'm on all social media under Laura Lee Potvin or the Angel Rock. A couple groups on Facebook too that you can check out. I don't want to hold up too much time, but feel free to tune into my shows. I'd love to have you guys, or even anybody off the panel would love to have you on anytime. Monday nights at Angel Rock, 6 to 8 p.m., and the thing at the foot of the bed on Thursdays, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on UFO Paranormal Radio. And thank you for having me.
Oh, very good. Last but not least, Lily Rodriguez.
Hey, I'm retired. I'm just hanging out here for fun, really. But no, but actually, but actually, if you'd like to hear more of my jabbering, you could check out the Love Sessions, which I co-host with Miss Lauren Love over here on YouTube, and we talk about all sorts of topics. But we base it all on bringing love back to you and taking care of yourself. So check us out on YouTube, and thank you for having me. I love you guys. I just made new friends.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. I have chills. I am so grateful to have shared this space with each of you. It was so rich and illuminating, and the energy was just so yummy. Thank you. Thank you so much. Augie, want to take us out?
Yeah, I sure will. And this has been wonderful. But one little comment, looking at Lily, that is just the evidence that you don't have to be old to retire.
Older than you probably think.
Nah.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, I got a question for every one of you. And maybe all of you would like to answer it. And that is, if you were talking to the whole world and the world is listening, what would you tell them?
Talk back. Be in communication with
Yeah.
the universe, your angels, everyone, all of it.
You are
Yeah.
loved and never alone. You mean more to more people than you would ever know.
Yep.
You're in divine relationship with creation, and you don't have to be in a dependency bond with an inverted system. When you let that go, you'll see the magic and the flow, and that you are guided and you are supported for being true to who you really are and answering to the depth of your soul and its journey, and enjoy the adventure.
Thank you.
Yes.
Take it too hard. Have humor and laughter and
Mhm.
come together in
Yeah.
community and find good friends.
Eat
Yes.
dessert first.
Lily?
I would say buy yourself flowers. You deserve them.
Oh,
Love it.
there you go.
And
Thank
I
you.
mean, I would say, you know, show yourself more compassion, show yourself more love. It's really important not to judge anybody because you truly don't know their journey. And, you know, it's like just send out unconditional love to the planet and all its species. You know, we need to raise the vibration on the planet. The planet has been awakening, and there's been more changes now than there has been in over 10,000 years. So it's all about just show that respect and love towards each other, and, you know, distance away from, you know, negativity and drama and fear, because fear will put roadblocks. Just live your life and the way you want to live it. Just be free, regardless of what is in front of you. Stay true to yourself.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
everybody. Thank you, everybody. We
Thank
will
you.
be back here next week. And I think if I would say one thing, I would say that, you know what, you are whole, perfect, and complete just the way you are right here, right now. So
Yep.
we'll be back next week. Check Augie out on Sunday night, the paranormal show. And thank you, Mac, for producing behind the scenes. We love you. Good night, everybody. Good night, Augie. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank